in some ways, but also critical, of course, is design. Again, we're pretty proud of what we do in terms of design. Whitchelstowe is an example here that Matt's just flipped a few images up. Big development at Swindon. Some of you may know it as you drive past Swindon on the N4. It's the front garden, it's called. It's the bit in front of the motorway. 3,000 new homes, bigger still than that. We're not the only developer. In that one, we actually partnered with the council, with Swindon Borough Council, to deliver affordable and also, on the design side of things. But there's new canals, lots of open water, lots of very high quality open spaces. It has won lots of awards in terms of the design quality going forward. So when you are allowed to start with a blank sheet of paper like this, we like to feel we can really deliver very high quality schemes that genuinely do win awards around the UK. That's probably enough of me rambling on at this point, but I think the key message to get across to you this evening is nothing happening immediately, A. B, we are keen to understand what people think, and C, if you want to have a dialogue about various stages as we go forward, we're committed to doing that. We've already been invited back by other organisations, so obviously not said something too badly, but genuinely, we are going to bring forward some options for master plans. It won't be a fait accompli. When we're looking at a journey that once this development starts, it could be a 20-year build. So this is a 20-25-year long process. It's a lengthy old development. It's not happening overnight. It will bring potentially very significant change to Burnham in particular. But we're at very, very early stages. Full stop. I'm happy to take questions.
Any questions from any councillors?
Could you show us the map again?
Sure.
There are three points really. First of all, how many houses do you think you may well put on this site? How many houses? We've had banded 2,000, for instance. Do you see that sort of number?
I think it's extremely unlikely that it'll be 2,000, simply because by the time we've made provision for all the open space that we need to provide, plus all the commitments to biodiversity net gain, it's a minimum of 10%. I suspect the Somerset plan will probably have 20%, like a lot of plans do. So my guess would be we're close to 1,500, but do not quote me on that. I don't know is a genuine honest answer to that.
Okay, well, my points, and I'm sure it comes from the other council, are what provisions are there for schools to take the additional population? What provisions will there be for doctors' surgeries? Because the one that's situated near the crematorium and Faircott there is already overrun, and it's overrun with people visiting there, and it's overrun with traffic to and from. You're a pretty isolated site. Your only access is at the top end from 3140. That's already a narrow road. Are you saying that you're going to push them across the animal centre, down through Ham Farm, round East Brent and through Brent Knoll? If so, forget it. You'll never get it through us. And you're bound all the way along here. And I'm mindful that Owen used to live in a house along there, in a cul-de-sac, and it's just as well he moved out there. So,
considerable foresight.
To my mind, you've got a problem. You've got 1,500 houses, you've got a minimum of 3,000 cars, you've got a minimum of probably 1,500 houses, 2 kids, you've got 3,000 kids that need schools and doctors with the parents. It doesn't stack up to me. The infrastructure that you're working with won't sustain that. Our existing infrastructure won't sustain that, not unless you make big provisions for additional services. And it's a criticism of every development that comes up. Nobody thinks about jobs, children, schools, doctors, shops even. There's only a tiny little co-op there. You know, where are people going to go? They're going to come to Brent Knoll shop? I've no idea. But, you know, there's nothing there. Nothing.
Do you want
Yeah, well, I mean, if I could just correct, on the access side of things, really important to understand that I'm going to, if you don't mind, jump up. You'll be aware that there is another piece of land down here, just unfortunately just off the map. That's owned by a different family, but they are cooperating with us informally. So the idea is that you get a connection from Stobbins at the bottom, and then, as I mentioned in the Sedgemoor local plan, there's the idea of potentially going and connecting right the way through, and eventually on beyond. Now, whether that is a sensible idea, I think our starting point is that the main access would be
You'll need a through road.
Essentially. So, you know, there's big questions about that, but that's just to make sure that, you know, we're not suggesting that it's all from the north. In terms of schools, yes, you're absolutely right. The scale of development like this, you would get a primary school. That being said, there are some oddities, as you're probably aware, in that the one at Brew Farm's just been delayed on the basis that school rolls are falling, but we do know that actually in this part of the world the birth rate is going up. So we do know that, you know, clearly new residents bring, you know, big children. So a scale of development like this, around 1,500 house, you'd get a 2 or 3 form-entry primary school as part of that. Shops, yes, definitely. We like local centres. We also really like doctor surgeries. They are businesses. The pharmacies that go with them, are very valuable, as business opportunities for people. As far as employment goes, big discussion there around whether you want to put actual employment provision on the site, and if so, how. Whether you do that for people like me who tend to work from home and like somewhere to go and change spaces during the day, but it's probably not the right place to put formal office blocks and that sort of stuff. So yeah, we're aware there would be big infrastructure challenges, but just to reassure you that a scale of development like this, a local centre, GP surgeries potentially, but certainly local centre, primary school, major open space provision, although of course there is the sports grounds complex to the south, and the one up just above in Barrows we heard last night, plus substantial areas of open space, children's play areas. Yeah, I mean these are comprehensive developments. So I think one of the things we're keen to hear about is exactly the sort of issues you're raising, which is what are the problems at the moment? What could a development like this look to address in terms of problems, but also what are you looking to achieve going forward?
Any other questions from councillors? Malcolm?
Are you aware that part of this development is on the site of a previous river?
Yes. Yes, we've got the
Is that
historic.
taken into account as well?
Well, I'd say we're at incredibly early stages, but we know we've had the one of the team has pulled all the historic maps going way back, so we were able to see that. But yeah, we know there's a huge challenge because all of those blue lines on there are watercourses, existing ones. Not to mention the previous, what was previously there. We know that we're going to have to find a way of understanding how those reed systems work. Some of the, as you know, some of the level system is very actively managed. Other parts of it are allowed to. So we need to do our homework on the flood side of things. We're at very early stages of that, and I'm not going to pretend to you this evening that I have the answer to any of that. All I can tell you at the moment is that the site is somewhere that floods, or is in the flood zone rather, and somewhere that in order for us to contemplate building in the future, we will need to do a lot of technical work.
Yeah, just an observation also. The Broad Brent Ream is very important to Brent Knoll.
Yeah.
Because we do get flooding, a runoff from the Knoll in particular.
Yeah.
And if you've been around Brent Knoll the last few weeks, you would have seen how important that is to the drainage of Brent Knoll in particular. And so we would definitely want to ensure that any development would not cause any backup onto Brent Knoll. And bear in mind, as I'm sure you're aware as planners, we've got very, very low fall, a metre and a half if we're lucky, between where we are here and the coast. And that's the problem that you've got in the site that you're looking at. But those are my points anyway. I don't know if anybody else has got any.
Any other comments? Any from the rest of the room? Anyone wanted to get on?
Sorry about this.
No, you carry on. That's where all comments and questions as well.
No. Looking at this, I would have thought with this site that size, a single road access onto the B through and 40 isn't going to work.
No, we're just coming from the
That's
south.
no way that would go. My suspicions come with the leg that goes up towards the animal centre, which I would have thought, if it's an animal centre, not knowing anything about it, I would think that that area should be kept clear and not developed.
Agreed.
Also, the comments that all the comments go on primary education, but you have to remember there's a secondary education that follows on from that.
Yeah.
So you have to remember, we made a huge mistake in Somerset where we gave permission for houses down on my end of the world, and already the secondary education is in problems because there's not enough spaces and the school would have to be significantly done. Infrastructure for housing of that development size, you're heading towards the time when the government are going to stop selling all diesel and petrol cars, so electric.
EV, yeah. we do that.
So the infrastructure required for a site of that size and the amount of electrical charging points, and remember now, I worked in the battery industry for 46 years. On cars now we're trying to make batteries to go further, and we're having to use 3-phase chargers. So the single phase connections to houses will not be what's required in the future.
Yeah.
So all these things, the infrastructure, please don't build houses without garages. We're seeing so many developers now abandoning garages and going for these triple stack places or double, which A is a nightmare if you've got electric cars because of getting in and getting out. But smaller houses have no storage spaces. So what you should aim for, if I was any advice, is a quality development on providing quality houses with rather than cramming them in. Sorry, I'll shut up now.
No, that's
what we're here for.
Look, they're all good points. I mean, just to say, all our houses, all our new homes come with EV points now.
Yeah.
But I fully appreciate
We did
the,
have-
the technology.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
needs
but
to
we
step
did
up.
have a debate with the developer when I challenged them, is there enough electrical supply?
Oh, yeah.
And they said, that's not our problem.
Yeah.
Well, it is the problem.
It's a big problem in Taunton.
And also, I went to the power provider, and sure enough, there wasn't enough power to provide that site if they all had cars.
Yeah.
So look at everything, don't go for the easy thing.
No, perhaps if fair comment. Secondary schools, yeah, again, I mean, I live in Taunton. We've got a site in Taunton we're trying to get permission for, the other hat I work, which is about David Wilson up at Linford Lane. You know, all of the secondary schools in Taunton are full, with more development coming. And new schools, secondary schools planned, new through school at Moncton. So, yeah, clearly where secondary school pupils go is going to be a big concern.
Because I don't know where the coverage for secondary is here.
King off.
How much space they would have for something like this.
And that's,
Next
yeah,
thing I think probably.
yeah, indeed. And, you know, it's one of the big pieces of homework we need to do, which is what infrastructure do we require for something of this kind of scale?
It's a lot,
Yeah.
because you're not talking about a small site.
No, absolutely. Well, yeah, what I would say is that we are early enough, and it's genuinely a blank piece of paper at the moment, that, you know, we are doing our homework. So, you know, I don't want to sound like, yeah, I don't have the answers, but in a lot of cases I don't, because we've got a vast consultant team who only got instructed on the, you know, the first week of January this year. So we're out gathering, so everything you're saying, you know, which informs me about what the local issues are, whether it's about the Reeds, whether it's about secondaries, whether it's about, we've heard about the doctor's surgery, I think, the last 3 nights, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we get that, it's something we hear a lot, so it's really useful insight, thank you.
And the other thing is regular contact with these councillors.
Absolutely.
You have
Well,
to take it on.
we'd love to be back on a quarterly
Yeah, right.
basis, or whenever you would have us, or whenever we've got things to say.
We've asked the same question to Burnham and Barrow, and Burnham said, well, perhaps it might be useful if we come back every 3 months or so.
Because this is
I think that
not,
works well.
this is not a tick box exercise.
No, it isn't.
Consultation.
It's, I think,
We haven't even, just to be clear, we haven't even begun full public consultation. That is years away. This is very informal. It's what we're really concerned about is there's been the stories in the press, and we just want to make people aware. Big message. There's nothing happening, and there won't be happening for a long time.
No.
But there's an opportunity to have a genuine conversation. I mean that it's exceptionally unusual in my planning career to have a completely blank slip of paper. You know, we normally end up acquiring a site that's already got planning. You know, so to have one which is completely blank, you know, it really is a huge opportunity, not just, you know, for us as a company, but, you know, to try and do this the right way.
Jane?
Can I just say, the roads, think about how wide the roads are. You've got to have big enough space for off-road parking, and cars are getting bigger. So you need the garages bigger to accommodate the bigger cars. But the roads, if they're too narrow and you've got people parking, then your refuse can't get down, your fire engines, your buses. And thinking of an estate in Weston, the roads are so narrow, if you've got cars parked, they can't, there's no access. It's a disaster waiting to happen.
In Portishead,
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perennial tension between what the council asks us to do, which is to provide as little parking as possible in many cases, versus what we'd like to do because our customers like parking. So, you know, that balance has got to be struck. You know, government policies generally try and, you know, discourage car use. Now, but we all know, don't we, that people own cars. You know, if you've got a family, 4-bed family home with two teenager adult children there, you've got 4 people, 4 cars. So you've got to be sensible about it.
And if you've got public transport and railway and buses,
Yeah, it's different. Yeah,
you know, that would help.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and yeah, we all know that 21 is a lovely thing that potters up the coast, and yeah, if you've got all day, it's great.
yeah,
But you know, a development like this is the sort of scale where you get, you know, new bus services, you get subsidised, you know, additional services being put on. So you do get a chance to try and, you know, put right some of that provision. Yeah, of course, Burnham doesn't enjoy the same, you know, the same benefits as some of the larger towns. I get that completely in terms of public transport.
I'm sure it probably came up at your other meetings anyway, but it's what Colin alluded to in terms of, it's gone.
Sorry, yeah, right. Yes.
In terms of the highway, at the moment, we in the village suffer in the summer from a lot of holiday traffic using those roads that are at the top, as in effect a back road into Barrow, Breen and Burnham. If this goes ahead without the highways being sorted at the other end, we run the risk that we become the rat run to get to the A370, and certainly any experience of the use of Stodden's Road or the Barrow Road in the summer months, it's a nightmare. So you're not only going to have to worry about your site, but it's how you get to it with the road that heads from, it's called Queen's Drive, in effect, from the Tesco roundabout to the Edithmead one. It doesn't cope in the summer, so again, if you're adding this sort of volume, you're going to have to find some way of addressing that at the same time.
Well, it's permanently gridlocked. Even not in the summer, most of the time, all the roads around here are permanently gridlocked.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, I'd say we both live locally. I travel to Burnham pretty regularly. Walk a friend's dog on the beach. Yeah, so I know, certain times of the weekends, even at this time of the year, it can get very, very busy. And going out to the town in the mornings that lead, and then coming off, as I've done this evening. There's a stream of cars getting off and coming back in Statland. A lot of those get to what I call the Esso roundabout and do turn right, heading up towards Barrow. So that's, I think, part of the reason why people see having a possible sort of link round the back, as it were, as something that relieves Burnham challenge. But obviously, as Barrow pointed out last night, well, that's great, but you just move the traffic further up. So unless they get the bypass that goes all the way up to Breen, which would genuinely be a benefit for them because you bypass Barrow as well. They were pointing out to us, well, all you're doing is bringing the traffic out at Co-op roundabout, or Co-op junction rather, which, given the Co-op is already actually waiting to happen, as we know. So there's some real questions about that link road. Is it a good idea? Is it, do we positively plan for it? How does that sit with policies that generally tell us not to start building new roads these days? Do you build something that doesn't connect to start with, but only connects in the future that there is a long term? Clearly, does traffic management mean that you potentially stop the road going towards you this way? If when you're looking at development of this scale, you're clearly going to have to look at the whole network and how it works. But rat running, it's a big issue. I live on the north side of Taunton, and I'll happily confess I rat through Cheddar and Fitzpaine and out that way, because people do it, don't they? If you can find a way, you will find a way. But there's a lot of discouragement to doing it, and more being put in. But you can put, you put weight limits on you, which deters a lot of the caravan traffic or some of the larger vehicles. There's things that can be done. Yeah, absolutely. No more tractors on the street. Yeah. So look, yeah, you're absolutely right. Any contemplation of building a link road would have a, you have to ask, what's the function, who's it benefiting, what's the economic benefit, and what does it do to other communities beyond those immediately in Burton. So yeah, we've got that message very loud and clear. Thank you.
Any other questions that members have got tonight? If not, can I thank you very much for coming
Please.
on? I think certainly from the view of members, I think it would be useful to keep us going on a regular sort of quarterly update as you get information to come through.
Really
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'll email through the stuff which we've shown, so I'll email through.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Thank you
It
very much.
is a cliche, but we genuinely haven't got anything to slide in this and we are keen to talk. So. Good to see you all. Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
I used to like the
Sorry
Monday.
about all the questions.
August was Monday and then
We take the second notice.
Don't think we really got to that yet. It's just a proposal.
We've got that in the for the barrels. Good point.
Sorry?
Anyway, good to see you. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where there wouldn't have a few people, isn't it?
Are you going, mate? Yeah, nice to see you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Are you okay getting that weight? Are you sure? Do you want me to try and do that?
This is like Margaret said.
Are you taking her back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just go to the road before?
No, do a couple of minutes.
If they try and put a road through the centre of that, in the reserve matters, get it linked with the occupation of the first dwelling to be delivered in its entirety.
Yes.
In Crewcombe we've got a quayside, and it's conditioned that from the occupation of the first dwelling they have to deliver this link road which goes to the east of Crewcombe within 4 years. But if you don't, then it could end up with a road one end and a road the other end, and they don't care. But I don't like that little spike that goes up towards the...
It's always a bit of a, when you see something like that,
Yeah.
you do wonder what the motivation is behind
Well,
it.
their motivation usually is to have a spur road or something towards that. Sorry to...
No, not at all. That's fine. Absolutely fine.
Interesting.
Just to double check, there's no one else who wants to speak in public session before we get into the meeting itself. Okay.
No, we can stay.
See life from a different angle.
See what it sounds as though, right?
And you didn't run screaming from the room either, which is good. Right, we'll make a start then on the formal part of our agenda. So item 1 is apologies for absence. Owen.
We've had apologies from John Matthews from Melina Kingscote, a delay from Andy Holmes, he may be here hopefully, and Adi. Now, as far as I know, just in terms of reasons, John is a work-related one. Melina is to do with her vehicle that's broken down. Andy's coming down from the north of England for meetings, and Adi's got food poisoning. So that's basically the rundown of who.
And we've also got a temporary apology from David.
David,
popped out, so we'll be back shortly.
Okay.
Members, are you happy to accept those apologies? Carried, that's great. Move on to declarations of interest. If I can do my normal declaration as a member of Somerset Council, any matters that rise there. also as a member of the Parish Hall Committee, and just a reminder of my dispensation as a shareholder in the shop. Colin?
Shop, please.
Shop.
There's a planning thing on here, the third one down. I've had a letter about it.
Oh, right, yes, okay. So as a neighbour, in effect, of the site.
Yeah, I just had a letter, yeah, I had a letter.
Okay. Right. If we move on then to minutes of the last meetings that we held, if we start with the 7th of February, are there any amendments to those minutes? And if not, can I sign them as a true and accurate record? Opposed, thank you. All those in favour, please show. That's clearly carried. Which one's that?
Yeah, they actually sign all sheets now.
Oh, okay. Well, if I do one,
Yeah, do the one,
the
do
other.
that later. Yeah.
Okay. And then we have the 21st of February, which has also been circulated. Any adjustments to that?
So the two lots on the 7th, there's also was the
Oh, confidential, sorry.
minutes.
In which case, the confidential minutes, are there any amendments to those? And again, can I have a proposer that I sign them as a true and accurate? Thank you. Thank you, Tom. All those in favour, please show. Clearly carried. And then the 21st. Again, any amendments, or can I propose that they're a true and accurate record? Thank you, Colin and Malcolm. All those in favour that I sign them as such. That's carried. Excellent. Right, members, that moves on to item 4, which is the planning applications that we have today. The first one, although it's listed as 3 The Willows, that's actually the application that is on behalf of the Parish Council for the tree that is at the top of the village green, which is adjacent to 3 The Willows, so we're not in a position to comment on our own application. The second application is the crown reduction of the macrocarpus across the other side of the village green at 90 Brent Street. Who wants to introduce this? Yeah, that's your back, David. You want to,
That's it.
That's as good as any.
Detailed
detailed plan, yes.
Quality plan as usual.
Good job.
Basically, it's as described, they want to cut some branches off that are affecting the chimney by 2.5 metres and 1.5 metres off some of the other branches, so it's nothing serious and it needs doing. Good practice. I'd say no observations, but whatever it's not be
any other comments or questions that anyone's got on that one? So was that
Yeah,
proposal?
proposed.
No observations. Second. All those in favour of no observations? Just in case I'm going to abstain, in case it comes to planning, I need to comment. And the third one is 072325, which is the building to house the indoor play area at Upper Battleborough Farm, which is the one that's been before us because there is an amendment.
Right, tell me what you want under this lot, because there's quite a lot of stuff proposed.
Down the
Proposed road, was it?
Yeah, it's the very bottom but one. Basically, it's the planning application that we've seen before, and it's identical from everything that I've looked at, apart from they've slightly modified what they want to do with the road, the sweeping of it, and signage on a no right or left, I can't remember. But looking through the documentation that they had from the original application, Highways didn't like the proposal and stipulated quite a lot of improvements, and these aren't half of what Highways would like. So, I'm in your hands really.
Members, any comments or questions that you've got?
Well,
Colin?
Thanks, Mr. Well, I think the same principles apply as applied to our initial decisions on this planning application, and this new road layout doesn't address any of those matters at all, and I don't see any improvement in the proposed development whatsoever to accommodate our concerns, our legitimate planning concerns. So I suggest that we oppose this planning application on the same principles that the road layout is inadequate and doesn't address initial problems, and that would be my proposal.
So just to confirm, so in effect the other issues that the parish had with it last time still stand, but in effect what we're saying is it's the same issues, but the one thing they have tried to address, they haven't actually gone far enough to deal with the issues that you've raised.
Because the actual buildings and everything that they proposed are identical.
Yeah.
Do you know what you put last time, or would you like what we? Well, if we ought to we ought to agree on it. Last time we put highways issues and congestion on an already overcrowded road, A38, visual impact on historical locations such as Brent Knoll, because it was quite dominating in that, the only gap along there that you could see the Knoll. Entrance concerns to the location, well that's this. Lighting pollution to neighbouring properties, the ecology report objecting to the proposal, and overdevelopment of this rural location. I think all of those still stand, because nothing's changed.
Been addressed.
Okay, so is that your
Proposal, yes.
Yeah. Between you propose and second?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All those in favour of that objection based on those reasons? That's clearly carried again. Abstain. Thank you.
Do you want me to go under that?
Yes. Oh wait, clerk's report.
Right. Just a few items really. One thing that's come out today actually, which is rather fortuitous because I had it on my list of things to talk to you about, was the emails for the council. Apparently I'm told that NAUC is proposing to make it an obligation to have a dedicated council email from sometime towards the end of this year, but they're also proposing it should be a Gov email address and not Gmail. And they are offering some support, financial support. There are some grants that may be available. It's going to be a bit costly apparently. It costs several £100 to convert the whole council to that type of email. So this is the proposal at the moment. Now it's not with us yet, but it's just something to think about in the future, having just gone to Gmail. Something which we might have to think about. I think probably the latter part of the year, probably the second half of the year probably.
I think that's a good idea, to be honest with you, because if you do become a councillor, parish councils are within the sort of, if you like, government legislation, and it would cut straight across this people that do not want to run Gmail and they want to stick to, it would be mandatory that we all have the same .gov.uk, which I think would be far better. We'd all have to have it right from the start as a councillor. That's what you sign up for, particularly as if we've got financial help to do it. So
We just need a tutorial.
Sorry?
We need a
Yes.
And again, just sadly, obviously we'll see what NALC come out with in terms of what their funding is as well.
They're being advised by Information Commissioner's office to do this.
Have they given any indication how long they would subsidise payments?
Well, it's a one-off payment, it's a set-up payment basically.
Just the first year.
It's a set-up payment, yeah, that's where the big cost is.
So it will cost us eventually.
It will cost us, but not huge amounts. It's the initial setup that's the costly bit.
And have they given us any steer as to those members who don't have email,
Yeah,
who don't have
it
computers?
doesn't force you to have email. There's no intention to make it an obligation. But if you have got it, it needs to be a properly constructed one. So it doesn't, in your case, Malcolm, it wouldn't make any difference. You can still carry on as you are. It's not an obligation to change to email. And there are a number of other LGA changes coming forward, and I think they're going to spill out during the year, different ones, which are just administrative things really, but they're things that obviously I'll keep you updated on. We do, believe it or not, we actually do have a surgery rota at the moment. This is basically Bob and I coming, but there is actually a rota published if anybody would like to join us at some stage. I know that working is difficult, but you know, we did have quite a few people here yesterday. We had about 5 yesterday. Usually, yesterday was no exception. It was mostly to do with speeding issues surrounding ANPR, SIDS, that kind of thing. But it's not always that way. And you know, so that's basically the surgery. They say we've got a lot to report back on that.
We also had a bit on drainage and a bit on planning.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Little sort of things crop up regularly, the only other thing I wanted to say, just so you're aware of it, I'm now a member of the Internal Audit Forum. So I'm actually a member of a professional organisation now to do with auditing. It doesn't affect this council because I can't audit our own council, but I do audit a couple of other councils, and so therefore it's important that you're aware of the fact that I am doing it. Okay, that's really it.
Any questions for everyone on the clerk's report? Okay, it takes us to, you've had the project tracker that's circulated to members, so that's already been gone round. We've got the footpaths report. Any updates on footpaths?
No.
No. Okay. Anything on highways? Okay. Who was on the Village Green report?
I tell you, it was David for February.
Was that?
So, interesting
Muddy.
report then, David.
The muddy ones are clean and everything else.
And Tracy's doing the March one,
All
apparently.
right, okay.
Who is the next one?
Tracy.
Tracy's doing that.
Okay.
And, yeah, thanks, David.
Which takes us to the audit and staffing group. Just to update on that, there has been a meeting of that group on a staffing matter. There'll be a report to follow in due course, but there is a second meeting due, and we'll report once there's some information. But just to let you know, there has been a meeting of that group. Buildings working group, I don't think has met.
No.
Shop working group.
Oh, we did have one brief meeting with the developer, Master Baker.
Yes.
So yeah, we have had one meeting with Ashley.
Shop working group.
We have not.
Okay, I'll do a very brief report from me as the Somerset member. As you know, the main thing with the council at the moment has been dealing with the budget. We had our full council meeting at which the budget was set so that we avoided having the 114 notice, so we have set a balanced budget. The budget this year is basically, there was approximately about £100 million shortfall, which has been met in 3 ways. There's about £35 million worth of savings that has been put forward, which are going to have to be delivered during the next 12 months. There's a similar amount of use of reserves have been put forward, and the council applied and was granted the ability to have this capitalisation direction, which I've mentioned to you before, which again is about a similar sort of sum, about 36 million odd. So basically what the council can do is either borrow or sell assets and use that capital receipt to offset the shortfall on the revenue funding. Going forward, there is still a shortfall for next year, forecast of around about 104 million. That's partly because obviously this year part of that has been met by the reserves and the capitalisation. So there is proposed a complete restructure of the council, and there have been the opportunities for voluntary redundancies are being made to officers. There are certain officers that aren't being given the option, so those who are in things like planning, building regs, social workers, all those that are difficult to recruit, or are not being given the chance to go for voluntary redundancy, but the others are. It will result in a reduction potentially of staffing at the council of somewhere between 20 and 26%, which is circa 1,300 workers. So it is fundamentally a big change to the council. It will mean there will be things that we have done in the past that we will no longer be able to do, and things that we continue to do will have to be done differently. But it is a fundamental sort of root and branch approach that's being taken, because it is such a major position that we need to resolve. Colin?
Can you give us some examples of things that you won't be doing in the future?
So some of them in the central area happened already. So across the council now, things like public toilets that have been provided by the council will be looked to be devolved to other authorities to pay for. CCTV is another one that is now going to be funded by town councils rather than by the Somerset Council. Leisure and so things like, particularly in some areas, there are involvements with leisure centres, with theatres. Those are likely to be things that are going to come under real strain because they are not statutory duties for the council to carry out. The difficulty the council's got is that the big statutory areas that we have to do of adult and children's social care are constantly growing in terms of their costs, and it is to compensate for those that the other services are having to be pared back. But the council obviously is trying to avoid the 114, because all the time we avoid that, we at least have control of the things that we're doing. Once we hit the buffers with the 114 notice, we basically hand over that responsibility to an incoming commissioner, who will let us make the decisions as long as he agrees with them. So we take ultimate responsibility, but he tells us what we can and can't do. And his attitude, or her, will be anything that's non-statutory from day one is stopped, whereas what's trying to be attempted at the moment is to see, even of some of those non-statutory ones, can we continue to fund them in another way.
And supplementary, sorry to hog it, how, if at all, will these cuts affect Brent Knoll in particular? I can see how they'll affect Burnham and bigger councils, but how do you think it will have an impact on Brent Knoll itself?
It's going to be different. I mean, we had actually I was going to say a cluster meeting, it's not a cluster, an LCN, a local community network meeting last night, at which the highways were discussed as to how that could be affecting the parishes. It is likely that highways will be reducing some of the work that they currently do. Some of that will be offered to what they were talking about last night, for example, was it may well be that parishes could contribute to the cost of it. It could be that we employ a highways steward between parishes. So, for example, that would be a cost of about £50,000. That would be shared between a number of parishes, possibly across the LCN as a whole, and then you would buy, in effect, hours of that person's work. What that doesn't cover is things like the pothole repairs. That covers things like the verge maintenance, the gully clearing, that sort of stuff. So it's in that sort of way that we may have to contribute more. To some extent, Brent Knoll has been doing that already, so things like the maintenance of the top of the village, the verge cutting that we do, the hedge cutting that we've been doing, we're already doing some of the things that other parishes are going to expect to step up and take on. We already run our village green. East Brent don't. That's paid for and run by the council at the moment. They are probably going to have to take that on, or not have it maintained as well. Some of the closed churchyards may well find that their maintenance regime is not as frequent as it was, but again, parishes may want to step up and pay an amount to help keep it going. So in some respects, I think we may be affected less than some parishes, but we will inevitably be affected to a degree.
And when will it come in by?
So from the highway stuff, they've adjusted the budget was amended from the original proposals, so that they've actually deferred this in effect for about a year. So we will have a period to discuss with Highways what it's involved. And one of the discussions that came up last night was we need to know what it is they do now and what it is they're planning to do, and then we know what the gap we might need to fill. But it is not going to be dropped on us on April the 1st. It was one of the assurances they gave us at the meeting last night, was they do understand it was all quite late in the day in terms of asking for contributions, and they're doing what they can to help parishes where they want to step up and fill that gap.
Okay.
Amanda?
I was going to say, is there any long-term solution for this problem with the adult and child social care? Because I know we've been hearing about this for a while, and like you said, it's spiralling now. Is this going anywhere? Is there anything being said about how this is going to be managed?
I think fundamentally, if central government doesn't do something to address social care in the next couple of years, we will not be the only ones hitting the buffers. There are some who've already hit it now. Generally, most of those who've hit it currently have also done something that's made their financial position worse. There are an awful lot of competent councils that are about to hit this sort of limit, and it does. We're unfortunate in Somerset in the sense that we have got an ageing population. We have a higher than average older population. We have a growing special educational needs element within Somerset, which has grown substantially in the last few years and is expected to grow further following all the issues with lockdowns, and the kids who are coming in to need help are needing more help than they used to, so the costs are escalating on that front as well. So what's tending to happen is, as I say, across the board, councils are finding it very difficult to get there. Whatever political persuasion the next government is, at some point, someone's going to have to grasp that nettle.
They'll address it. Yeah.
Well,
hopefully.
you hope they will. To be frank, governments have been talking about addressing it for a number of years, and it's one of those problems that every time they've looked at how do they address it, they run screaming from any of the options because they in themselves don't tend to be popular. So hopefully it will be addressed, but if it isn't addressed nationally, I think we struggle, and I don't know whether Mike wants to comment, but I think we struggle next year if someone else doesn't come up with something to help us.
It's the central government, they've got to do something, because the funding of adult social care plus the growing demands on SEN, special educational needs, are just growing. The problem, of course, we've got is, as you alluded to, it's the growing age population of Somerset now. Somerset now is becoming the new Devon and Cornwall. Because Devon and Cornwall were saturated with people retiring to Devon and Cornwall, it got to a state in Devon where one village, 2/3 of the village wasn't owned by people that lived there. So now in Devon and Cornwall you have to have an association to live there. So now Somerset's the next one up. So it's fine when people come and they're all fit and well. When they need the backup, this is where it goes. And if central government don't go to it, I know with the allowance we've been made, we were one of 20 councils that's had that special allowance. So it shows you it's all over the country. So,
No, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, one bit of positive, and it's, you may remember we talked about the gravity site at what used to be the ROF, which is obviously just up the road from us, and of course one of our members used to work there. Pete Osborne was his ROF, wasn't it? Basically, that is now going ahead. It's been announced that it's the Tata Group, Jaguar Land Rover, that are looking at going on there. It's going to be something like a £4 billion investment coming into Somerset. It's massive, and it will be looking at potentially about 4,000 highly skilled jobs on there once it's up and running. And in the meantime, obviously there will be the construction that takes place, but they are looking to get on with it quickly. They don't want to sit around. So that is going to be a bit of a game changer in this area. The council is doing a lot of work in talking to them and to the Gravity people who own the site, to talk to other things like the Bridgewater and Taunton College and all the other educational facilities across Somerset, because you may remember again with Hinckley, they put a lot of money into Bridgewater and Taunton to create almost like an academy for people to bring through into the nuclear industry. Well, we're looking for the same sort of things to be happening with this sort of battery technology that's coming forward, so it could well be a really good investment for this area, and it's something that's been on the agenda for a very long time. Any questions that anyone's got you want to raise? Okay. If not, we'll move on then to the next item on the agenda, which is the financial report. And Owen.
Right, we've got our statutory payments list. This is the last month of the financial year, so the statutory payments list needs to be updated, but it is what it is for March, as previously. So in the first instance, it would be useful to have that agreed by
So is that not coming up under the
well,
financial matters?
the contract, of course, that was from April.
Right.
That would be from April. So this is the last one of the.
Okay, so you want just the approval of
yeah,
payments?
just approval of this
Okay.
one. Yeah.
The members, are you happy that we pay our normal statutory payments for March? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous.
Now, variable payment list, we've got two lists on the agenda, and I think you probably remember, I think it was Monday, I think I sent out a note with 3 additional invoices. The only reason why I sent that out to you is because this is the last payment month of this financial year, and although they don't appear on the agenda, so technically we shouldn't be considering them, it is the last of this year. And also they are small contractors, and one of the things that is very encouraged now is a small contractor shouldn't wait for being paid longer than necessary. So I'm in your hands. If you wish it to go over to April, that is absolutely within your power to do so, because that is the right way of doing it, putting it on the April agenda and moving it forward that way. But if you feel that we can make an exception on these 3, and the 3 payments involved are Steve Parkinson to do with VAT advice that Bob and I sought and had a Zoom meeting with, of £900, including £150 VAT. Also an additional parish hall invoice to conclude the end of the year room hire. And then we had £1,000 for Paul Martin for the work that he's done, coming to meetings, etc. In addition to that, we already paid for. So there were the 3.
What was the 4th? Stuart Nichols.
Stuart Nichols, yes, sorry, I beg your pardon. There's another one. Stuart Nichols has had to make some additional brackets and some changes to the SIDS over the last 6 months or so, which have resulted in a further amount of money there for Stuart. So
How much was that?
that was for £340.
And what was the additional parish hall
Parish hall was £56
on top of the 82?
on top of the 82, yeah. And then there was 1,020 for Paul Martin, and Steve Partners was 900, including VAT. He was the only one that was vatable within those 4 payments. So it's over to you, really. I'm in your hands. I'll do whatever you wish me to do.
Members, looking for a proposal as to whether we take.
I would say we pay it. We've had what?
We have to pay it anyway.
Yeah.
If there are costs that have legitimately been accrued, then we have to pay them.
Okay.
So that was proposed by David, seconded by Jane.
Okay.
All those in favour? I'm going to abstain only because I don't want to vote on the parish hall
No,
payments.
that's
So.
fine.
Does that, are we also voting on the Somerset County Council one for 4440?
4440, and you may well ask what that was for. Actually, it was actually an invoice that goes back to last July, I think it was, to do with the school bin. You know, the bin opposite school, the dog bin.
Yes, I remember.
To do with that. And they, to be honest with you, they just sort of caught up with us.
the deficit.
They just caught up with us, David. Yeah, we are here, Brent Knoll, you know, they sent them an invoice.
Okay, so should we have that you want a separate proposal for
Yeah,
those
for
two
those 2 payments, if possible, yeah.
Propose, yeah.
Malcolm. All those in favour to pay those 2? Carried as well. Okay, so that takes us on to other
Other
financial
financial
matters.
matters. Now, you may remember that at the last meeting there was some discussion that we ought to have as a regular item on the agenda, the budget. I think Colin, you mentioned that as being something that was useful to have. And I will bring that budget up somewhere. Budget revisions. Yeah, that, if you remember rightly, when we did the November precept setting budget, we had this rather colourful detailed sheet when we set the precept. But what I've now done is updated it. And if you remember, when we did the precept, I had to forecast those three columns, December, January, February, because they were forecasted payments, not actual payments. They are now actual payments, and they're now within the budget, so they're actual figures. So the only one we've had to then guess now is the March ones. But if you look at the total of the budget, this is the budget as we are currently. We started out with a budget of 53,000, and then the forecast was 58,274. We're actually 59,000, so we're pretty close all along. There's not been a huge amount of change. So 59 is, no, I beg your pardon, 58,274. 59 is the next year's budget.
Next year.
58,274 is the correct figure there for the up to the end of March, and that takes into account the blue figures on the right hand side. Okay, so that's exactly where we are. So we're pretty close to where we were when you set the precept back in November. I don't know if you've got any questions.
The other thing I was going to mention, though, I think that 58 includes the running costs of the toilet block, which includes the electric, some of which is then paid back to us by the shop, isn't it, in terms of at the top of it?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about the electric is that the shop is the biggest user of electricity, clearly. And if you look at our income, somewhere here, look at our income, energy credits shop, you see there 4625. So that was the shop's contribution towards the toilet block energy. So that they are by far and away the biggest users, as you would expect. Running freezers, lighting all the time, whereas of course we're only running occasional lighting in the toilet block.
So in effect, although we're showing 58,200,
you could deduct that off to make it an accurate
53.
Yes.
So we're slightly under.
I was just going to ask, what is the actual electric bill for the toilet? Because I don't think there's any electric on in there. The lights are very rarely on, the hand dryer doesn't work. Is there any actual electricity?
There is some in there, but one of the problems is, of course, they come and do a meter reading. E.ON come and do a meter reading, it's a factual reading. And we came to an agreement with the shop about 12 months ago that we would pay 20%, they would pay 80% of the total use. Now, I think, to be honest, I think we were quite generous to the shop, because I think we use less than that, actually.
I was going to say, I don't think there's anything actually.
I think the shop are probably using about 90%, frankly, but, you know, we're only talking about relatively small amounts. But the trouble is, with 3 meters as well, and then trying to do individual consumption, it's just impossible. You've got to make a stab at what you think it is. And, you know, obviously once we get the shop sorted out, the electricity supply probably will be a different configuration. It will probably be the shop invoicing us. So there'll probably be one supply, which the shop will deal with, and they'll invoice us for our usage. It'll be the other way round, something for us to talk to the shop about. And the water rates, of course, the other way round. We will be the biggest user of water than the shop. So we'll probably take control of the water bill and they'll pay us. So it'll be sort of swings and roundabouts, really.
Because obviously at the moment we've had to estimate stuff, whereas going forward there will be a sub-meter that we can read off the actual uses of Colin.
I mean, just to go up there, no, under, where was the AMPR costed?
That was in the special project, I think.
Okay, so £5,000 will come in against that.
There's an emergency budget there,
Yeah.
that was
So-
the ANPR.
Surely that